Sure.
Joining me now on set, Ken Belkin, criminal defense and constitutional law attorney. Ken, thanks for being on set, even though you and your wife just welcomed a new baby into the world yesterday, and yet you chose to be here with us today.
We did, a baby girl. Luckily, I packed a suit for the hospital with a pink tie.
Very good, very good. Well, let's get into some of the details here on this. So we might see the affidavit in some part by noon tomorrow, but based on what David's saying, it sounds like it's going to be almost worthless from the standpoint of real transparency.
Yeah, we're gonna see an affidavit for sure, and the affidavit is going to have redactions including, and I quote, witnesses, grand jury information, strategy, direction, scope, sources, and methods. So what are we going to see? We're going to see the words Mar-a-Lago and a lot of black ink surrounding it?
That seems very problematic to me. I understand why the DOJ doesn't want to release this information because it's part of their investigation, but we're talking about the former president of the United States in an unprecedented raid. Very well could be somebody who runs against the sitting president right now. It seems to me the burden is on the DOJ to provide radical transparency on this, is it not?
The burden is always on the prosecution. And let's be clear, this is an unprecedented raid on the former president's home, and I think it demands unprecedented transparency. We need to know what's going on. We need to know if the Biden administration is not weaponizing their prosecutors and pursuing this for political ends.
So I want to talk a little bit about the president's reaction to this raid and what he knew about it. He was asked yesterday by Fox's Peter Doocy if he had heard about the raid ahead of time. Listen to what he said.
Mr. President, how much advance notice did you have of the FBI's plan to search Mar-a-Lago?
I didn't have any advance notice. None. Zero. Not one single bit. Thank you.
So former President Trump heard that, responded to it in writing, saying Joe Biden said he knew nothing about the break-in of Mar-a-Lago or the greatest political attack in the history of the U.S. Does anybody really believe this? Okay, I'll give you my perspective on this. I find it incredibly hard to believe that the president wouldn't know that his former opponent had just been raided by the FBI. What do you make of that as somebody who watches these kinds of cases, knows constitutional law?
It sounds laughable to me, but let's be clear. There are supposed to be firewalls between the Department of Justice and the presidency to preserve the impartiality of our justice system. But this whole thing reeks of impartiality. As we noted, this is the potential political opponent of the current sitting president, and he had a search warrant executed on a home. This is a man without a criminal record. This is a man who served as president of the United States, and really he is entitled to the same protections that we're all entitled to.
How do you see this playing out? Okay, so we've got the affidavit. We're going to learn something, probably not much. The investigation potentially could be over before we even see the affidavit sort of litigated in court in terms of what we can see. This timeline seems unhelpful to me. Your thoughts on that?
I mean, this is probably the most investigated former president in the history of the presidency. You've got the Russia collusion investigation. You've got impeachment number 1, impeachment number 2, January 6th. You've got the New York County District Attorney's Office. You've got the New York State AG's office. And now you have this. At this point, all of these investigations have turned up nothing. So I don't think the government is entitled to the benefit of the doubt here. They weren't entitled to the benefit of the doubt anyway.
What recourse does the president have against this? Obviously, he's calling for the special master. He wants somebody impartial looking through this. We don't know if he's going to get that. It may be too late to ask for that. But he has said, look, I was actually willing to help. Whatever documents I had to transfer, I was willing to be a part of that. But this thing seemed to go from 0 to 60 really quickly, 60 being a raid by the FBI. And that feels to a lot of people very political. That's not the process. That's not what the system would prescribe. It's what politics demands. Do you see politics seeping in that way?
I see politics has been seeping into our justice system rapidly, and it happened at an increasing pace when Donald Trump became president. All of a sudden, it became throw out the rules, throw out due process. We got to get Trump. Well, what are we going to get him for? I don't know, but we got to find something, and that is not what the American system of justice is supposed to be based on. This is what Stalin did in the Soviet Union. He used to say, show me the man, and I will find you the crime. We don't investigate people. We are supposed to investigate allegations of criminal conduct. there's very little here to suggest.
Well,
he
and
did
that's
anything
why I go
criminal.
back to it's so important to have transparency. Like, what is the probable cause here? What is the basis of probable cause? Are we going to see that? I mean, are you going to get that from the affidavit that we see?
We're going to get very little from this affidavit. As I said before, everything that they're redacting, we're going to be left with a piece of paper that says affidavit, Mar-a-Lago, and Donald Trump on it, and the rest of it left to your imagination. The fact of the matter is, we need to know what's going on here. We need to know if we have a president that is abusing his Justice Department.
Well, we will hopefully get some answers to that soon, but I am not optimistic given David's report and the track record we've seen so far from the DOJ and pushing back on transparency. Ken, we got to leave it there. Thanks for being with us, and congratulations again to you and your wife.
Thanks for having me.